Cheers. Where's that there? Thank you. It's very nice. This is... Whoa. We are... Sorry about this. I just need to get that recorded. Go from there. Sorry. Thank you for indulging that tech run. I am very happy that you're here. And I trust that none of you know what we're talking about today, because I didn't make that public. And I've already done this talk in Sydney as a test, so you guys are seeing the primo beta version of it. Which is really what's actually starting to happen. I've just started to use Sydney as a testing ground, which is the dumbest thing you could ever do. You're supposed to use somewhere like Geelong or Newcastle. You should be using your prime market as it. But that's in fact one of the major points that we are going to get to tonight, because I do want to be talking about this, because, actually, we'll start with this question first. You're all self-help nuts, right? That's why you're here. Yeah? You're into it. You're into it. At the very least. If you were to narrow down from your readings, which I trust that you've done, what the most important point of self-help is, what would you say it is?
Goals.
That's right. Bam. Straight off the bar. Who said that? The goal thing. Sorry, other people shouted out other things as well. But it was you that said goals. Yeah, fuck, look at how eager he is, right? Yes. It's goals. Everybody else was wrong. He was right. It's absolutely true. Goal setting is the most important part of self-help. And why is that? Well, we all know from the research, yeah? You have 10-to-1 odds on going to where you want to go if you start writing down your goals daily. Pretty damn simple to do, pretty easy. You start off with the right written day. We've all heard this over and over again on the channel, yeah? That if you start off writing down everything that you need to do that day, you have a 10 times better chance of accomplishing it, because your brain actually has like a list and you go, oh, okay, moves towards it. I didn't know this. I was once doing this in Townsville, I think it was, of all places. And what? Really? No. Are you from there? Is that or you just know that place?
We'll talk later.
You talk later? Get back to the self. Wow, fuck me. Okay. You can see why she escaped. I'll tell you this. In Townsville, obviously there's a bunch of soldiers. When I was talking about that, they all knew that was a point that has been drilled into them ever since their military service, and it is because this is what they keep saying in the military over and over and over again: lists save lives. Lists save lives. That is how important it is. Every time that they're writing it down, because if you're in the military and you just forget to hunker down something on a team, so it's like, you are exposing the camp. This is the thing, you have to have the checklist, and even if you've done it 1,000 times over and over again, as we're always saying, repetition is the mother of skill, you need to do this every day, even though it's not glamorous. You have to keep doing these things. So, obviously, it is just about the reminder of the direction of where you want to go in life. And, we've talked about goal setting 1,000 times before. What we will be talking about today is more the micro-dose version of goal setting, which is, do you know Mr. Poindexter in the front?
Prayer.
Prayer? What a fucking idiot. What? Which one was it? Does anyone know? Intention. That's actually a nice hippie version of what we are talking about. Which one? Short-term goals. Okay.
Consistency. Focus. Planning. Discipline.
Getting close.
Habits.
No. Decisions. Decisions is the microdose goal of every moment of your life, because you are making decisions how often?
All the time.
All the time. Everybody right now who is writing things down, and I hope that everybody does have their pieces of paper or a phone or anything, is fine, because you do need to write down these reminders. The entire point of becoming is basically just to go oh yeah, and then just write down the thing that you've heard 1,000 times again. Good. I'm glad that you're doing that. I'm really glad that you are. You deciding whether to bring a notebook today is a decision. You deciding whether to take your phone out is a decision. You deciding not to take your phone out is a decision. Everything that you are ever doing is a decision. And what is the true miracle of that? Does anyone know? Control, which leads to our point, which is the only species that is capable of controlling the environment around it, pretty much, are anything that revolves from primates. That's it. We are a tiny select few animals on Earth that have the capacity to do this. And obviously, as you can see how dominant we are, we clearly own it on a level that's just not even comparable to chimpanzees or anything like that. Think about that. Consciousness in itself is your greatest gift. There's nothing else. Like that's all you have is your consciousness. Every single waking moment of your life. That is something that obviously the vast majority of material items on this planet do not enjoy the gift of. And then it moves very quickly from fucking praying mantis to us after that. It really does. Because we have the capacity to shape our environment, and the reason that we are... Actually, sorry, this is a better way of putting it. You are able to shape your consciousness. You are shaping your consciousness with every single decision that you make. What is happening in that is, and I want you to write this down, if you are actively making a decision, you are shaping your circumstances. If you choose not to actively make decisions, circumstances shape you. Thank you. Someone, I think, did you just say wow or did you say whatever? Whatever. Thank you though. I'll take it as a wow. Because I do think that this is as important as you could possibly get. We are talking about micro goal setting here. The most important thing in self-help is goals, obviously. The second most important, well, actually, I would argue that this is a goal. But this is every single moment of your life. And the best, obviously, what would be the point of today's talk would be to make sure that you come out of here making better decisions. Because those who make decisions, if you look at any of the literature on this, are guaranteed to have far more successful, far more fulfilling lives than people that remain indecisive. In fact, we've got some very good indicators of who is a decisive person and who isn't a decisive person. This is really interesting. 3 things that they've noticed. And you can figure this out for yourself. Usually there are a bunch of, in fact, let me get a show of hands on this. How many of you guys think actively, just naturally, that you are a decisive person? So that's about a third of the people here. And how many of you think that you are an indecisive person? You know what's incredible about that? You can see with the I've never noticed that before. That is incredible. Did you see that? Anybody that identifies as a decisive person, it was just that. Did you see indecisive? Did you see that? Isn't that incredible? Okay, you're living up to it. I will say this, if you are a decisive person, good. Let's work on that, but you're already on the up. You are already on the up. Any decision that you make is always going to be no decision. We all know that. We all know that. Even if it's a wrong decision, what do you get out of the wrong decision?
Learning experience.
A learning experience. In fact, I really like this phrase. When someone with money meets someone with experience, the person with the experience gets the money and the person with the money gets the experience. I think, isn't that a great way of looking at it? It is a great way of looking at it. At the very least, you get something because you are testing reality. You are testing reality by making a decision and saying, all right, let's go into it. That didn't work. And then that probably happens 9 out of 10 times. Let's be honest. A lot of it is failure. And because we're stupid, we probably 8 times out of those that are left, out of those failures, we probably don't even learn the lesson and have to do it like 800 times more. Oh yeah. And then you do it a different way. But even out of that, if you are learning from that one failure, that is worth those 10 attempts when the other person is making no decision. So we just know, and there is very rigorous research into this, anybody who even perceives themselves as a decisive person is going to make more decisions and therefore will have a more successful life. Indecisive people, I'm sorry you are on the back foot already. We'll talk about you guys in a second. But for the guys that are decisive in the room now, I'll say that there are little tweaks that we can make that will make your decisions infinitely better. You will make far more good decisions. And as a result of that, you will be able to move to your goals way quicker and live the life of your dreams. And I'll say this. Indecisive people, we've got three things. We've got three things that we know, even though, most of the audience, a third of the audience doesn't even fucking know, but if they're decisive or not. But we will just give you these three indicators so you can find out for yourself. 1, decisive people hold their breath longer. Why do you think that is?
They know when to go. They know when to breathe.
It would indicate that they don't know that. But I admire the effort. I will say, look, what is happening there, and this is a very good indicator of it. The reason that holding your breath actually is a very good example of this is indecisive people, when they're holding their breath, they're thinking while holding their breath, when was the last time I had a breath? How much longer can I hold on? Starting to feel it. Oh shit. Okay, that's it, I'm out. Right? Like they are wavering in their heads. And every time you waver, what is happening? Fear. Fear is at the root of all indecision. And if you are a fearful person and you aren't making those decisions, there is a bunch of procrastination techniques that you probably use in your head. But that's mainly what's happened. The fear is stopping you from making decisions every time. That's pretty much it. A decisive person just understands, oh well, this is probably going to suck. This is probably going to be humiliating. Who cares? They enjoy it. They enjoy making the decision. They make their ego. This is why, even if you just decide to be a decisive person, just that identity shift. Make sure that you move in the direction of your things every single time, because your ego is based off of the idea that I'm a decisive person. And so, who cares what the result is? The point is, I made a decision. That's the win. That's what they're focusing on there. Indecisive people are not focusing on making the decision as the win. And obviously, as we know, like that guy said, like they hold their breath longer. If you do be decisive for too long, yeah, you probably could hold on to your breath for too long and get brain damage, right? But they don't think about that. The people that are indecisive think about that as one of the many options. And so they hide in something that is called potentiality. We'll get back to that in a second. I'll give you the other three classic examples, because these are really good ones. The other one is what you do when you are jumping into cold water. That's always one. Decisive people, much more likely to just like, right? And as a result of that, right? Then you have a very small subset of people that I think that we should all model in here that do the better thing, which is what my fiancée does, and I always thought that she was stupid for doing it, and then I realised that I'm dumb for thinking this, but she would always be like, it's cold, and then she'd just get water and then rub it on herself all the time, and I was like, this is pathetic, just jump in here. This is actually a really good metaphor for what is the right decisions in life. Then there's obviously indecisive people that just run in and out of the water and wavering in on it. He's like, waste of time. So that's another indicator of it. And then the final indicator that I think that we can all relate to, because it just happens every single day. If you are a decisive person, tell me this. And this is something that I think I've just naturally got a good inclination for, because I think I was just born being somebody who is decisive. It angers me to no end when I'm at the restaurant and I'm with an indecisive person. Isn't it annoying?
Just read the menu.
What did she say? Just read the damn menu! Huh? Yeah. That's what happens, right? It's so annoying. And indecisive people, the fear of missing out. It's, oh, what if this burger's slightly better than this burger? Shut up. In fact, this is the most annoying one. I've got friends like this. They will pick the burger and then, look around and then see someone with the chicken penne or something like that, and then just be like, can I change my order? Oh my God. That is a perfect indicator that you are an indecisive person. It's how long you take to make the menu. Whereas a decisive person will just decide, it sucks, oh well, there's always another menu coming around the corner. So those are the three major things that you can really tell very quickly if someone's going to be decisive or indecisive. And that's the basic indicators of it. I will say this, I will add this into it. Indecisive people, I think, well, I don't think I know from the research, what they're looking at is they harbour in the safe harbour of potentiality. The reason that people don't like making decisions is because, does anyone know the Latin root of the word decision? It's decare. It means to cut off. It means we're doing this now. And indecisive people don't like doing that. They hate that. They like living in the field of potentiality. They like looking at all the options and getting lost in it. And the reason that you like looking at the options is because it's all illusory. It's actually a lot better than making a decision, the decision being wrong, and you being losing money, or worse, publicly humiliated. And so you like to just stay in the safe harbour of potentiality. But I want you to write this down. Potential is worthless. Every action has a value. Potential is worthless. It is something that you are hiding in. A way that you do hide in a lot, this is something else that I want you to write down. Whenever you're confused in life, I want this to be your mantra. You're choosing to be confused. You are choosing to be confused. Every decision really is quite simple. At its rawest. We're going to make it more complicated deliberately today. But every single decision is, do you want this or not? Yes or no? Come on, pick one. And then everyone always says, oh, there's all these other factors involved into it. That's true, but when we're talking about the decision, which is cutting off, saying we're going down this road now, it's simple. The reason that you are making it complicated in your head is because you do not want to suffer the circumstances of it. Like, really the root of this is that you are scared that your decision is not going to impact your circumstances. That's at the core of it. At the core of it, you are thinking, this is me, this is where I'm always going to be, my life is never going to change. Guess what? Your life will change as a result of other people's decisions if you don't make decisions. Do you understand? Not making a decision is a decision. It is a decision to be shaped by your environment. And obviously, as we've said on the channel so many times, you can't escape that. Mostly what you are is a result of your environment. There is massive differences between a Melbourne audience, a Brisbane audience, a Sydney audience. The Melbourne audience is kind of polite. They've got this sort of, this was filmed in front of a live studio audience kind of feel because you grew up in the cold. And so there is a culture of going out into the warmth, which is a play. That's your version of surfing, which is sad. And that's why you have that. Sydney, we have always been this kind of crown jewel where all of the major... Melbourne obviously has all of these acts that come here, but you actually appreciate those acts because there's a culture of going there. We have those same acts that come here. And so usually when I go out to an audience in Sydney, it's my most hated thing of the entire... apart from Newcastle, I fucking hate that place. It's so... Oh my God, can you imagine that? If everyone in Sydney was a meth head. Everyone. It's terrible. But when you're in Sydney, the audience, very much because of the environment that it was shaped in and has all these other options and doesn't have a respect for this, they will talk throughout it. It's like performing in Hong Kong, apparently, in front of an opera. They just sit there, they just eat, being like, yum, 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 and talking to each other. And then, like, most of the time, they're just sitting there, kind of just, and you're kind of like, hey, I'm trying to do something here. And they're just like, you're not Ariana Grande? Fuck you, Because they're kind of just used to the best as well. It's a terrible audience. Then you go to Brisbane, and because it's hot there, and everybody's kind of dumb and a bogan, they're just, it's a fun audience to be around, constantly. They make their own fun. You can be crap. They will entertain themselves. That's the big difference.
What's your Canberra audience like?
Autistic. Really fucking autistic. And also, how's this? Always an empty merch bag. Always. Because of their fucking fat cat jobs. They do. They've always just got so much expendable income. I will never forget this as long as one of them came up to me afterwards and I said, what's your job? And she said, my job is to hold a microphone in front of Bob Cabba. And I said, how much do you get paid? And she said, $120,000 a year. Yeah!
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's awesome for her. But it's, that's the audience of Canberra.
Do you want someone to hold your mic?
Hmm?
Do you want someone to hold your mic?
And that's a very Melbourne thing to say. Did you hear it? It was like, I'll hold the microphone for you. It's weird. It's just, you're kind of nice wankers, you know? Like, nice wankers. It's cool. I don't mind, exactly. There's like, it's all because of the environmental circumstances shaping that you will have these responses, won't you? And so my point is, obviously, your environment is going to shape you. There is a reason that all of you support AFL and we support NRL, and it is not because you decided to, is it? Because you grew up in wherever the fuck Carlton is, if it even exists. And so, yeah. Magpies. Is that the one?
No. Close.
Collingwood. What's Carlton's emblem?
Blue.
It's not beer, is it?
Blue.
It's just blue. The colour. Holy fuck! How retarded. It's supposed to be the hoity-toity sport. Yeah, it's like primary school. It's like the blue team. We're doing little athletics. So I'm telling you, that's the reasons, right? So there's things, obviously, in your environment that you are never going to shape. The problem is you can have massive sway over your environment, and most people voluntarily choose not to. They voluntarily choose not to because it feels safer being in this realm of, when I grow up, I'm going to be an astronaut or a cowboy, who knows? And then you hit 30 and you're still thinking, still could be an astronaut, and you still have these thoughts. You still have these very childlike thoughts, which is the world of potentiality. This is why children are always, today I'm a handbag, they just choose whatever they want to be that day and they kind of just act it out, and that is sort of the little childlike fantasy that you stay in. It's very immature to do this. I'm sorry to say this, but being decisive is adult. When you're a child, how many decisions do you make on your own accord? Not many. Not many. I mean, you don't have any money. Isn't that a weird thought? Like, maybe for the first 12 years of your life, minimum, and then, like, when you were 12, it was like, yes, $10 a week, But, like, there's nothing there. You just, a thing that gets dragged around from play, you're at Wet n Wild now come back home, now we're going to church. That's your life. And so the thing is that a lot of people like to revert into that state. They like to revert into the state of someone indecision, and the reason they like to stay in the frame of indecision, and this is the reason that we have to mature out of this, is because just by naturally being a human being, you have been given the option most of your life until you hit a certain age of making no decisions for yourself. None. And so the underlying thought process that is happening when you are indecisive, First off, you are making decisions. You just have to make that point. You are making decisions even when you're being indecisive. You are deciding not to decide, and therefore you are giving your environment full control. And the problem is, most of the time, our environments are not good environments to give full control to. If you are part of the elite class, for instance, pretty damn good. You can do that. You can just swim around in the opulence, and because you're kind of just in there, and then everyone's kind of, moving the boat along, you get like a nice cushy job or something like that, you can just be babied your entire life, which is another reason that a lot of people in the elite class do have that sort of childlike temperament to them. It's because they are making no decisions. They are making no decisions, the environment is making decisions for them, and why not? Good for them. They can do that. If you want to lift yourself out of poverty, you have to make a lot of decisions. You have to test reality endlessly. You have to be up against it, forging in the fire all the time. You can stay in your environment. You can. You can stay in the working class. You can stay in the welfare class. But it's shit. But that is your environment. You can move out of it. And the only way that you move out of it is through decision. Sorry, the reason that I'm saying all of this is, when you are staying in potentiality, and you have this feeling of, circumstances will adrift for me. Really, the root cause thought of this is one of my favourite phrases, I don't say it enough on the channel, I really need to. the core thought of that every time is someone else will make a decision for me, which when you become an adult is not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's usually a bad decision because it's usually somebody being like, would you like to sign up to this phone plan? And you're like, well, at least you offered, and then you just do it, right? And then you go and do it. So it's usually a bad decision. But on top of this is what's happening when you are making, like when you stay in that potentiality. You are basically saying, someone is going to come and rescue me. That's at the core of it, really. You just have to understand this. At the core of your decision, an indecisiveness, at the core of your indecisiveness is the idea that someone's coming to save me. Dad's going to pick me up. Mum's going to tend to my wound.
Does that link with victims?
Hmm?
Is that linked with victim complex?
Yeah, well, it's absolutely that is a very absolutely victims are somebody who believes that they are completely at the behest of their environment. Totally. And again, a victim wants a hero. The thing is, you might get lucky. Every now and then a knight in shining armour will come and rescue you. First off, you will never, ever have the quality of life that you want. Ever. At the best, you will be a welfare recipient. And I'm not even talking about a welfare recipient from Centrelink, for instance, although that is obviously a lot of welfare recipients. But a job at the ABC, that's fucking welfare. Absolutely it is. In the upper class. Most of them are on some sort of family welfare. Really, they are just pretty much a charity case. They are at the behest of other people's charitable intentions. When you are in the elite class, somebody doing you a favour could just be, here's a Jeep for your birthday or whatever. But it's still charity. You still have to beg. This is the other thing that, it's not a popular thing in Melbourne, but it's definitely true. We all know this, especially if you do come from the welfare class, you know that there is a welfare mentality. Obviously, yes, I've got to make the little proviso here. There are definitely people that are charity cases and deserve to be on welfare, and then there are, as we all know, cheats. And as we all know, there are people on welfare that have the mentality of, it is my job to stay on welfare. I know these people. Of course I do. I came from a welfare household. Obviously, I will say in my head that I deserve to come from a welfare household, but I will say that, there was definitely people that their entire life was sitting there thinking about how to cheat the system to come in. I mean, we've all seen that Spanian video, right? Where it's like, this is how you tax a public house now, Teaching people how to cheat the system so they go up the queue in the social housing. This is a mentality. And the mentality is dependent on someone else. And the thing is, as long as you are dependent on someone else, you might get very good at doing it, right? But again, unless you're in the elite class, you are not going to be living a life that is at all fulfilling. In fact, you never will live a life that is fulfilling, ever. Because it's always this idea of someone else is coming to help. And maybe someone else does come and help. Maybe they do. But they've got their own problems in life. Even the most charitable person on earth, they're probably thinking about other people, 30% of the time? Most people are thinking about themselves 95% of the time. They're busy. They've got their own things and they've got their own shit and they're moving towards it. And you have to move into that realm. You have to understand that if it's to be, it's up to me. You cannot sit in this potentiality of, one day I could be this. It's actually quite sad, especially when I get to my age. I have friends that to this day say things like, I'm going to be a psychologist. I'm going to be an actor. Or a director? Maybe I'll be an actor or a director. That's fucked in my mind. If you're in your mid-30s and you're still one of these people I'm a musician, an actor, a juggler, lawyer, those kinds of people. Again, it's very childlike. And I've got to say this, usually they are from the elite class and they just live in that little fantasy world of I'm going to play this thing today. Why? It's out of no decision. And if you don't make any decisions, you're not going anywhere and you're not testing reality. It's just I'm an actor. Are you? Test it. How good are you? Let's see. Oh, you're not getting any roles? Maybe you should make some more decisions. A decision maybe to quit, or maybe a decision to just keep going further until you get good enough and until you're employable, which means that you're going to have to get rid of all the other fantasies of, I'm a cowboy, you have to get rid of all of those. So living in potentiality is a harbour. It is a childlike harbour that you stay in because it feels safe And there is this endless thing that somebody one day is going to come along and hold my hand and they're going to bring me to the promised land of all these vague ideas that I have in my head of what I want to achieve in life. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. So, sorry, I want you to write this down. I've said it before. I will say it again because I've got to tell you, look, I think that I am naturally a very decisive person. That's one trait that I have on my end. That's one good thing that I have. I'll say this. I catch myself all the time thinking, someone's coming to rescue me. I catch myself thinking it all the time. Someone is coming to rescue me. This is what I want you to write down. No one is coming to rescue you. That is the most adult, sobering, empowering thought there is. No one is coming to rescue you. No one. Don't expect it. If it happens, be grateful. That's the main key to success there, and it is the mentality of being a decisive person. A decisive person is somebody that doesn't think someone's coming to save me. And I'm telling you right now, when you revert into that childlike state of someone's coming to rescue me, no one is, you are a boat in a sea that is aimlessly washing from direction to direction.
Can you sort of tell when someone is trying to grow from, let's say, like a welfare point of view into a real, how can I explain it? Into real living, and from someone who's actually just reaping the benefits and victimising themselves. Like my mum, for example, she was at Tiananmen Square and sort of and dealt with a lot of the CCTV.
Joel, blood, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go on. Yeah.
She was a bloody pinker. No.
Yeah, and she was a pinker! And she was a pinker!
Like, I can sort of tell, like, from a Chinese background that she, like, you gotta work hard and do this X, Y, Z, but I've also met people who have, like, I live in I just moved to Brunswick.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of socialists who are like, I'm just like, it's just everything's so hard right now, I deserve more. Like, can you really tell the difference between when someone has really suffered and grown and someone who just sort of reaps the benefits in complaint?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Of course. It's a very obvious maneuver in something like, first off, I'm telling you right now, you can do the menu test. Do the menu test. Look at that. That is a very good example of that. There is that indecisive feeling. There is the indecisive feeling, like the way that they look at the world is sort of expectant and it is entitled, and it is this feeling of, it's always the same thing. Someone is coming there to save me. That is like, there is a very good indicator over and over again, just meeting someone. In fact, I want you to just think about this from now on. I want you to start categorizing people as decisive or indecisive, just so you get a feeling in your head of, is this person going somewhere or are they not? Now, here's the scary thing, because indecisive people are absolutely correct about this. There was an extensive study of 1,000 companies, I think it was. And these were top performing companies. A lot of these were top public listed companies. Guess how often they were making the wrong decision? Sorry, did we even talk about this for a second? I went off on a bit of a tangent here. We've got to define this very quickly. What is a good decision? Does anyone know?
What feels right?
If it feels good, do it. What? Getting the outcome you want. I would say this, that's very true. That's very true. But I'll put it like this. A good decision is a decision that moves you towards your goals. A bad decision is a decision that moves you away from your goals. That's it. That is it.
How do you know if it's good or not if you can't plan everything 100%?
Because this is the whole point about testing, right? Testing in reality gives you feedback. And this is something that we will be getting to very, very quickly. Well, actually not quickly, like a little bit later. But we will be talking about the fact that, yes, as you just mentioned, that is one of the main biases in the human mind, which is sunk cost fallacy, which is that you will start to justify your bad decision in your head. And you will start thinking, no, it was the right decision, and you'll keep moving down it. But I will say this, especially if you're a decisive person, there becomes a point where the pain becomes too much and you pull out, and you learn that was the wrong way to go. That also happens. But again, it comes down to this whole point, which is that, decisions have value, potentiality is worthless. Another point that I'd like to say over and over, I'm sorry, I'm always ragging on this specific group of high school friends that I have, because it does always come down to this. Everyone has this, right? Everyone has some loser friends at high school, and you're kind of mad about the fact that you are one, or you know them? Oh, they're your friends, yeah? Yeah, so you know exactly what this is talking about. Everyone in this room would have this, absolutely, because this is a room of people that probably are achievers. You would definitely have friends in your group that you're, let's just say, disappointed with their life decisions. Yeah? Don't you think? And don't you think that a lot of you in here, when you learned the magic of self-help and you thought, holy shit, there's books here that tell you how to get what you want and how to define what you want and exceed what you wanted. This is a magic book. This is real fucking Harry Potter shit. This is magic. And you try and explain it to them, and then they always say, like, that's a scam. Have you read a single word? Scam, right? Always. And they're always getting worse and worse in life. Why are you angry at them? Why are you angry at them? What's the phrase that you always say? It's got to be the same in Melbourne, right? He had so much potential. Potential. But again, potential is worthless. Every decision has value. Every single decision has value. Again, even if you are making the wrong decision, it has value. Even if you don't learn from it, again, eventually reality will bump up to you. You will actually feel what reality is like. At some point, even through our dumb primate heads, it will eventually come real to us that this is not the right way to go. Find another path. That will happen. That's why every single decision has value. Sorry, I will go back to this. 1,000 companies. Highly listed. Very famous companies. Very profitable companies. Would anyone hazard a guess how often they are making the correct decision? In percentage.
100%.
Huh?
30%.
Okay, that's going to make the actual sound really unimpressive. Which one?
57.
57.
69.
69, nice. Yeah. Oh my god, he said it. What a legend. Oh, are you talking about sex?
7.9.
7.9.
2%.
It's actually, look, I'll say this, it's even more interesting than people deliberately trying to fuck up the stat. They sit there and be like, 0.1%. It's even better than that. I'm telling you right now, it is 48% of the time. Can anyone hazard a guess why it's good that it is 48% of the time that they're making the correct decision? They're what?
Failing the other majority.
That's true, that's true. This is the other thing that is very interesting about this. What has very similar odds to a coin flip? A coin flip. Understand this. The most successful companies on earth are successful despite more or less, you could replace their CEO with one of those old cunts on Anzac Day doing tour. And they're still in the top 1,000. If you are wrong 52% of the time, you can still be one of the most successful people or organizations on earth. That's the good news. So, to tie into your point, sir, absolutely correct. They're making a decision. That's why they're there. Here's something else that's really interesting. You can massively improve those. Massively. They did a survey of 1,300 companies, and this was done by a consultancy firm, ironically. Because everyone knows what consultancy firms do.
Nothing.
Nothing. They do fucking nothing. Well, they're pimps, aren't they? You know what I mean? Like, they basically just walk into a corporation being like, yo, what's your name, girl? You need protection, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just give you, like, this mad confident speech, and you get enamored in it, and then you just down millions of dollars for them at the end to say, like, here's how you can be more profitable, 5 people, right? That's usually what happens when you go into, like, a top-tier consultancy firm. At the end of the day, I know because my wife wasn't a consultant for a long time, it was just... That was the end result every time. Just fire half your staff. That was the response. And then every time they'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That report was definitely worth $3 million. That's what they do with their lives. Anyway, the reason that CEOs usually hire them One of them is because they are choosing to be confused. That's one of the main reasons. Oh, it's very complicated. We don't know this market. We need somebody else to test it. What are they really doing? They're doing the CEO version of, Mom! Mom! Childlike. It is childlike. It is childlike to go to the consultant and just be, You can do it because you've got the money. And then we'll come in and just say, do this. Right? That's one thing. They're externalizing their decision-making process. That's one reason the CEOs will do it. Another reason the CEOs will do it, on the flip side, the ones that are too decisive, they will do it because the entire board will be saying, we make children's little floaties, why are we moving into weapons manufacturing? and trust me, it's more profitable. No, we're doing it, right? And then they will get consultants to come in and then pay them millions of dollars to turn around and be like, well, actually, there's a really good crossover in these two markets. And then they can go with that report to the people that were the naysayers and be like, I told you that Ernst & Young thinks it's a good idea, right? Like, they can do those things. That's the other reason. And then the third reason that you obviously pick consultants is, if you are just really being nice to them, and this definitely would work a lot of the time, is we just don't know the market, and we don't have the resources to look into this market, so we're going to hire this consultancy firm to do all the research for us and to come back to it. Anyway, you know what, this one consultancy firm, and I can't remember the name of it, but it figured out that the decision-making process that we're going to right now, which is a system, it is a systemized version of making decisions. Every company that implemented that systemized decision-making process, which is unbelievably easy, like everything in self-help, it's just a few simple steps that no one does because it's a little bit more effort than just doing what you used to do. Those companies ended up achieving their outcome versus those that got consultants to tell them what outcome to pick, 6 to 1. 6 to 1. For every 6 companies that succeeded with this decision-making process, one company succeeded hiring the most egghead advanced consultants on earth. And their job is to give you counsel and wisdom on what decisions to make. And the reason for this, I will get to in a second, but we will get back to the 50-50 coin flip.
Well.
Okay. You win. You get more information. I'll say this. "50-50." Why is that usually the most likely decision-making process that people use? Does anyone know?
Yes.
Random. Because it's random.
Because it's random, sort of.
It's binary, yes and no.
It's binary yes or no. It's binary yes or no. It's either good or bad. It's either you do it or you don't. Just so you know, salesmen, good salesmen, you will notice this and you can't unsee it once you see it. You walk into a store and there'll be a guy with a really snooty, nice British accent with that nice 90s male ponytail that doesn't make him look like an annoying hipster. You know, that one that's like kind of powerful, you know? He'll just walk in and then you'll see that you're looking at a pen and then you'll say like, "Charming, Elizabeth." You know, you'll say, "Yes, this is a beautiful pen. It was designed by Queen Elizabeth's pen writer." Like goes into a long history spiel. And then at the end, they will say, "So we'll be purchasing this pen? Or should we be waiting for another day?" What are they doing? Making you make a decision. This is again what we're talking about with your circumstances surrounding you, and they are making you make a decision specifically in a binary option. In a binary option, yes or no. Because they know immediately, this is incredible, this entire show I've just realised is just poker odds. It is, it's just, we're playing odds here, but they know that if they can get you to do that, immediately it's down to a coin flip. It's immediately down to a coin flip. If you sit there and ruminate for it long enough, you will usually become indecisive, and as a result of indecisive, what are you most likely to pick?
No.
No. No. And so they know that they can instantly raise it to a 50% chance by just saying to you, yes or no. I remember this because I was watching this sales technique guy. It's just so American. You know, that really American corporate confidence. I can't remember what his name was, but he had one of those like really internet-y kind of like, boom, that's what I'm talking about catchphrases. And, and he's seeing one of his sales reps sitting there talking to someone, and they're talking about, I don't know, one sales product that they had, and they're sitting there and saying, sir, I've given you all the extra value that I can. I've gone above and beyond to give you more value. This is all the value that I can get. And then he just walks in, he's just like, he's got a Texan accent as well. He's kind of just like, come over here, point the camera over here. Give me that. Sir, what's your name? James? James? You got an option. Yes or no? And he's like, oh, no. Yes or no? Yes or no, James? James, yes or no? James! Do I need to say it again? Yes or no? And then he goes, yes. And he goes, excellent choice. Hangs up the phone and then just goes, boom! That's how it's done. And then just walks out, right? You can build a very successful business off of getting people to narrow their decisions down to just that. Yes or no. Obviously, that's what good salesmen have been trained to do. They've been trained to get you to go and make that decision, because opposite to that, obviously they have a bunch of other sales techniques that subtly increase it more. That's the basic though. The basic is that. The thing is, your brain is doing that to you. Your brain is that Texan guy all the time. Do you want nachos? Yes or no? Yes or no? James! Right? That is happening in your head all the time. Should I go on a gap year? Yes or no? Right? Should I buy a car? Yes or no? Which will always happen at the car dealership. Every single time. They will say afterwards, are we buying a car or are we... And then obviously you've got things like, not buying the car. They've got those. They have those options. They're narrowing it down. Your brain wants to think in binary when it is making a decision because it's the least effort. Making a decision is effort. But if you are going to make decisions, you want to make the easiest decision for you. You want to make the easiest decision. And the easiest decision is to think about two options. Do I get it or do I don't? You know what they found is the most successful way to massively increase your decision-making process. As in, you have made a decision that is a good decision, i.e. it is moving you towards your goals, from 48% to 70%. So instead of losing half the time, you're losing a third of the time. You are winning 2/3 of the time. You are making a decision that is moving you towards your goals. That is a victory. You know what it is?
Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. Fuck it. In fact, none of this is relevant anymore. Just ask ChatGPT. That's it. I'll tell you this. You know what it is? 4 decisions. That's the magic number. You want to know who wants to be a millionaire? 4. A, B, C, D. More than that, and you get indecisive, which is a fancy way of saying choice paralysis. After that, you have too many decisions, you go, and you move out. By the way, a lot of the time it is very good to have binary decisions, but these binary decisions are things that you can automate, you've already mastered, like putting on clothes, for instance. There is a reason, I swear to God, that this happens. Once you start getting really productive, this only started happening to me, for instance, in the last 5 years of my life. Like it was just, I noticed that more and more, my entire closet is just this shit. Like I have good clothes in it. This is it.
We noticed.
Huh?
We noticed.
Yeah. Thank you. That was intentional. That's it though, right? Like this is pretty much all I wear. And then I've got like 2 jackets that I wear, obviously in Friendly Geordie's videos. But you will see this from high peak performers constantly. You see it from Steve Jobs to Obama to Albert Einstein. The reason that they start doing it at some point is they want to be using all of their brain power on something that actually matters. And so they just start wearing the same clothes over and over because they have just deferred that decision-making process. I mean, really, think about it again. If you are in your 30s and you're looking at your closet being like, oh, this is a green day, you're cold. It's pretty fucked, isn't it? Like that's a lot of decision-making power. That's what starts happening when you start getting better at decisions. You start just you get a sense of offsetting ones that don't matter, so you can think about the bigger ones. And the best way to think about those big ones that we know from research is Move it from binary to quarterly. Make it 4. Make it 4 possible decisions. Make it 4. Obviously, I'm at this stage of my life where most of my friends are saying, we bought a house and we want to renovate, but we can't. And that angers me to no end now that I know this. But we can't. Most people in their minds, with every single decision that they make, it's either I'm going to have this thing or I'm not going to have this thing. These are the 2 options. I either get the house renovated or I don't get the house renovated. Usually it's even worse than that, by the way. Unless you have a builder dad, I've noticed that that's always the heir. And he will just rain into you his one piece of wedding advice. Make sure you get a quote. Right? Make sure you get several quotes. Any more advice? No, that's it. Have a good life. So if you have like a builder dad, you will always know, all right, at least we've got the quotes. So let's just assume that they do have a builder dad and they got more than one quote from a builder. Come back and they'll say, we got all these quotes, there was this one that was the cheapest and most reliable, that's the thing, it's too expensive, we can't do it. Is that their only options? No. Never. You want to write this down. You never have binary options. Never. You never have binary options. It is never yes or no. There are always more than that. And even if there isn't, you want to get into the habit of looking at those little grey areas, because why have we increased ourselves to getting to 70%? It's because there is more chances of you picking something that is going to move you in the right direction, even if it isn't the full goal, which, by the way, when you get into self-help, you realise it is far better to be evolutionary as opposed to revolutionary. You want to be making those small gains all the time. We'll get to entrepreneurs in a second, but a good entrepreneur is somebody that looks at the downside, looks at the upside, and tries to account for both. They are looking, wealth building, it's a classic example that I always use, index funds. They're looking for the small gains, and it's still a win, and on average, that increases the trajectory way more. So, we'll go back to this. If you are renovating, it is not we either get the quote from the builder or we don't, and we don't renovate. Let's put these on the table. You could watch a bunch of YouTube videos. You could massively reduce the bill if you learned how to do some of these renovation points. In fact, you would probably get such an education on it that you could see if they're overcharging you or not, which would probably reduce the bill more. You could do that. You could. Another option is, maybe we'll just scale back on the renovations. Now, immediately, even when you're thinking about that, I think that there is always a pressure when I just sit there and say, do you renovate or not? And then everyone's going, oh, right? And then you think, no, there's actually these options as well. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you do. You can do that. I could go on YouTube, yeah. And isn't it incredible that a lot of the time in your life, you are going in this very stressful binary, which is always a coin flip anyway, way of looking at the world. It's either this or it's that. It's either this or it's that. That's it. 50% times wrong. 70% of the time you will be right if you move it to 4 options. If you just come up with 2 grey area options. 2 grey area options. Because of course, even if you don't renovate your entire house, even if you just start off with the kitchen and the bathroom, that's renovated. It's at least partially renovated. I like to use this example a lot as well. People always have this big, if we're going to think big picture for a second, when you're looking at your goals in life, you are always thinking, why aren't I there? Why aren't I as good of a drummer as the drummer in Whiplash? That should be me now. I should be there. And you get discouraged because it's binary. It's either I am where I am now, or I'm a champion. That's it. Those are my 2 options. I think when it comes to flying, there's the, do you go economy or do you go business? And obviously most people can't afford business, but most people can afford what? Premium. And let's be honest, premium sucks. But it doesn't suck as much as economy. Does it? And most people in this room, even if their financial situation probably could upgrade to an economy premium, it's usually only like a couple of $100 more. Usually you could go to that. And then the business one is thousands of dollars more, and you can't go to that. But it is a movement to your goal. You could be doing a POV version of this. In fact, when I started doing these speeches, by the way, when I started doing self-help, the really good example of that was, I decided to start doing those videos as a secondary channel. I never decided to put lots of effort into it. I did it over the span of 5 years. It was close, slowly ticking away at the end. We are getting to the point now, this is incredible to me. When I first started doing these talks, I'd probably get about, 80 to 100 people every single time. This was oversold by double. I could have put in probably 250 people easily without marketing it. And this was from me putting in 10% of my effort into something, Like I could have, at the very end, I know a lot of YouTube creators did this thing of I'm sick of this content. I want to do some other content. There was never the other option of just doing a secondary channel, testing it out, which we'll get to, and seeing if there is a market for it. That's never really discussed because most people think in these binary terms. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we want to be talking about here is confirmation bias. This is exactly what we're talking about with the CEO. Who knows what confirmation bias is?
When you look for information and you get exactly what you asked for.
When you're looking for information and you get exactly what you were looking for. Isn't that incredible? We're all guilty of it, constantly. And as a result of that, you make way worse decisions. I think that a reason that usually when we are in some sort of joust with another YouTuber, another journalist, anything like that, there is always a reason that we come out good. And it is purely just because I read this book. And I've instilled it into the culture of Friendly Shorties. Not that I needed to, because they just naturally do think this way anyway. But I will say this. Usually when someone attacks us, what are they attacking us through? First off, they're attacking us through their ideological paradigm. Now, to have an ideological paradigm, usually you have to exclude all information that doesn't hit that ideological paradigm. And so you just keep hammering it that way. So what do? Usually you click me out of context. That's one. Usually you could just straight up lie. Another thing that you could do is deliberately misrepresent the phrase of what is being said or anything like that. And the reason that you are usually doing that is because you are going down that path. You are trying to confirm in your own head. You are starting with the phrase, let's just start with, Friendly Geordies is a fascist, right? And then you'll clip me saying something like, democracy sucks. See? Fascist, right? You know what I mean? And you'll go through that. And then, so you make that reality fit. You make it slot. As a result of that, it's very easy to come out and defend that because you just go, here's the full quote. As a result of that, and also on top of this, you could be like, okay, you're saying that, with the Greens, for instance, that housing takes 2 years or something. You're not factoring in the fact that it takes a year for it to go through approval. You're not factoring in the fact that there is labour shortage. These things are never mentioned in their ideology. Never. It is never looking at the wider reality of the situation. So it becomes very easy to pick it apart. What is happening there? You are looking at reality. And the reason that I find it very, very easy to come back to a lot of these people over and over again is because I'm looking for when they're right. I am actively counterbalancing my cognitive bias. My cognitive bias is saying, I'm right. Let me prove that I'm right. You will see this. Anytime that I do a response video and they do a response video, their response video will just ignore every single point that they don't have a point to. Every time. That's phenomenal. That's cognitive bias. Right there. They do not want to acknowledge they're wrong. And woe to them. Woe to them. This is another major thing of self-help that I think makes you a far better person, is the fact that you can make your ego, think about this, making your ego that you are willing to admit that you're wrong. In fact, not just willing to admit that you're wrong, you build your ego out of saying, yeah, I was wrong. Yes, I win. That's my victory in your own head. Ding, sucked in. I was wrong, right? You can do that. You can do it. And see, there's an absurdity to it naturally, because we all know that our natural inclination is to constantly be looking for what we're right. You don't need to do that. Your brain will do that part for you. You need to figure out when you're wrong. You need to figure that part out. So, I'm always looking at their arguments through the frame of, what can I agree on? What are they right on? What are they factually right on? And you know what happens? You get more cred. Because people see this person is actually willing to look at reality. Immediately, there is something a noble, and you never really see it very often, do you? Someone just say, yeah, I was wrong about that. And what happens? You get applauded for it. How rare is it when someone says, I was wrong? No one thinks worse of you for it. Everyone thinks that you're way bigger. Because we all know, it's nothing angers me more than this comment. You are biased. Oh my God. Bias? Not even bias. Bias. You are biased. What is going on in that dodo's head? What are they thinking? They're thinking, I see the world objectively. Anyone that doesn't see anyone that doesn't agree with me is biased. The people that do agree with me are objective. Until they don't agree with me. Then they're biased. Isn't that incredible? It's only me that is the constant remainder here that is objective. The very, very core tenement of it is you have to understand that your brain is a house of mirrors. It is trying to distort reality to fit a frame because it doesn't want to learn anything new ever. It doesn't. It wants to do as little effort as possible. This is why I'm always really appreciative of the Jordan Shanks audience, because I think that even just to be in this in the first place, just to want to improve in life, that means that you naturally are counterbalancing that. You are looking for errors that you are making. You are looking for mistakes that you are making in the real world. And furthermore than that, what we're going to start doing is celebrating it. We want to make that our identity, that we want to be seeking out mistakes. We want to look for our mistakes. We want to find them. Because the more that you find them, the more that you learn from them, the faster that you will progress, because you know that's a dead end. Let's go onto the main highway again. Anyway, this is something that I need you to understand when you're looking through anything. And look, this is never, ever going to solve this problem. Like, these cognitive biases are always going to be in your head. All we can do is mitigate them. All we can do is that. Like, the classic example that I'm always giving is, I'm such an idiot that I was just like, I bet on sports bet a lot of fucking money that Biden was going to be the next president. And this was during when they were saying, no, he's out of there. He's out of there, and I was like, you're stupid. Why? Because on Sportsbet it's 10-1 that it's going to stay in. You don't want 10 times your money? What an idiot. This is the best investment ever. And what happened? Yes. You don't need to remind me. I will say this. I was looking for sources that kept backing up my point. And every time Ali on the podcast, you could see it in real time. Every time Ali was saying, no, dude, just look at reality. Why is that, by the way, that I'm bought into this? This is the way that gambling works, by the way. Why is this?
Because you're decisive.
Because I was decisive, I made the decision, I'm going to stick to it, I put money on it. That's how certain I am on this. This is going to happen. This is reality. I will make it reality through my sheer will. You know? It's stupid, but that's how the brain works. And so that always happens with gambling. You always think when the roulette table's going, it's going to land on red, and then it doesn't land on red, and then you turn into a chimp, you're like, and you get really... You get really angry, and that is how gambling works. It's just this endless thing of just like, you're putting your money down, you've made that decision, you want that decision to happen, it doesn't happen, right? That is the circle. So, anyway, I put the money down on it. I'm looking for sources endlessly that are saying that Joe Biden's a fighter. He's been a fighter his entire career. I'm always looking at that, despite the fact that 95% of outlets were saying, he's done, he's gone, the Democrats have turned against him, he's going out. I would be looking for, but this senator from Milwaukee still thinks he's cool. Like, I would be looking for that. That's something that you need to guard against. Once you make a decision, you will stick to that decision. You will break down on it. You'll break down on it. I'll tell you this as well. I know from focus group testing, my videos, for instance, I'm really proud of this, by the way. I'm telling you right now, the only reason I'm telling you this is so I can brag. That's it. So I've just loosely put this into the software. I'm telling you now, I was amazed at this. Nothing is better at convincing undecided voters than me. Nothing. Yeah.
Woo! Save the country!
Yes, I did. No. You've had it too good for too long. It's time for you to get adjust to reality. No, well, I mean, you don't need help, you're fine. Again, I'll bet money on it. But I'll say this.
the reason that I am is pretty much because I've got that intensity that same cowboy salesman had of just being like, and going down that so hard. And anyway, there's a bunch of reasons that you break down for. One of the things that they found, though, is what they call soft green voters and soft liberal voters. When they look at my videos, they switch because of how certain I am. You can always say that it's for the facts. I put the facts in, but I know that that's not the reason that people are getting swayed. The reason people are getting swayed is because I'm so passionate about it. I truly believe this. And then they look at that and they think, well, he clearly believes it, and so he moves towards it. This is a cheat code in psychology that is obvious. Well, it's the reason that Trump's elected, right? Like that, it's just the way that things work. The more decisive that you are on something, the more convinced you are of it, the more people that you can lead to somewhere else, right? Like for good or bad, that is the point that's happening there. Conversely, people that are hard Greens and hard Liberal voters hate me like you wouldn't believe. Nothing works less on them. Nothing works less. Nothing is less convincing than one of my videos to people that have made a decision. Undecided people, I'm great. Decisive people, don't show it. This is something that people are always saying to me constantly. It's just like, how do I get my friends to vote Labor? It's just like, well, just find someone that's like, no. That's how you do it. You don't try and argue with your fucking mum. She's got 50 years of voting behind her. She's decided. It's another reason that you have a bunch of people that are always saying, I'm an independent. And this is why nothing angers me more than I'm an independent. Nothing angers, because you're lying to yourself. At the very, we have copious amounts of research of this. In the United States, for instance, more and more people are flocking to that independent vote. And so everybody is, you hear it all the time on CNN and MSNBC and everything else. The independent vote is swinging towards this, or the independent vote is swinging towards. They've done the research on it. People will say, I'm an independent, and then they'll say, what have you voted? And I'm like, Democrat my entire life. But I'm an independent. It's just because in this day and age, it feels good to sit there and be like, I just look at the policy. I look at the policy. The reality is, how's this? People that were partisan were more likely to see the point and even more likely to vote for the other party than people who describe themselves as independent. Isn't that incredible? And it goes down to that identity, right? Like at the very least, they are honest with themselves. They know what they are. And so they are looking at it from that frame. So when you are looking at all of your decisions, this is something that you need to start doing when you are looking at any source, when you are looking at making a decision and you're doing your research and you say the same thing. And we've all had a friend like this, right? This was like, should I go on a Kentucky tour with the boys? And then you say, no. 1, you don't have any money. 2, it's dangerous. 3, it's the boys. There's going to be a lot of rub and tugs. And you're married.
You made a decision, you got married.
Yeah, he made a decision, right? Like, now he has to live with it. And when he's on Kentucky tour, he's going to be making many more. And that's what happens, right? So they say that, and then you say no for all of these reasons. And then they go, yeah, I think I'm going to go on Kentucky tour. And then they go. You're doing that all the time. This one simple counteraction massively increases your ability to make better decisions, to see reality for what it is, and it all boils down to this. This is the frame that I want you to start looking at every single source, anything that you ever do. I'm not even talking about politics here, I'm talking about life. Anything that you ever look into and you're researching, for whatever reason it is, it could be for work, it could be for your own personal endeavours, whatever, you want to be looking at it as, does this point support my point of view? Or does it not? And the whole reason that you are doing that is because, 1, like those partisan voters in the United States, you're at least aware of where you stand. You're not trying to construct this pathetic ego in your head that I sit there and look at the policies objectively, right? Like you are at least aware, this is my point of view. This is my point. This is clearly what I think.
Let's see what the other people think, knowing that you're probably going to reach the same conclusion anyway. The way that you get out of that a lot of the time is, does this point of view support me, or does this point of view not support my point of view? You are looking at it from that lens. You will make far better decisions because you are looking at it from reality, and the most important part of this is you are imagining a reality where you change your mind. Now that is an ability that most people do not have. Most people that you ever meet, we know this. We know this about ourselves, we know this about everyone around us. How often does someone change their mind? Never. Never do they change their mind. If you started being able to change your mind even 1 out of 10 decisions, massive advantage. Massive advantage. You have avoided one collision that was inevitable, that you would have to go through anyway, bump up against the wall and go, okay, now we've got to go back to square one again. Yep. You could sit there and just be like, no, there's enough that's convinced me of that, and then I've moved away from it. This is very good in, oh God, this is going to drive me crazy. I think, don't quote me on this, I think it was Arkansas maybe. There was an Arkansas firm that was mining somewhere, I think it was actually in Arkansas, sorry, they were mining in Arkansas, some company that must have been upstate or something, in a different state. There was a mine that they opened, they purchased it was really expensive. They realised once that they purchased the mine that it was far less profitable. On top of that, even worse, market conditions shifted globally. So the commodities that they were mining were not worth half of what they were worth before. Not only that, they were extracting far less than was promised. Not only that, they had bent hell and earth to get the government to agree to the sale, to move away from an Arkansas company to someone else to move into there. The whole thing was the Arkansas firm realised all of this and was trying to sell it and was upselling it like as always, and then because they wanted it, they kept ignoring all of reality and they bought the mine anyway. Now they're stuck with 6,000 employees. They're stuck with a government that's like, all right, you twisted our arm on it, you better produce some results. And they're there, and then they realise, holy shit, this is going to bankrupt us. Now, can you imagine how intense the following negotiations be? They have to move out. They have to close the mine. Now, the government doesn't want the mine closed because the government is getting revenue from it, and it's a massive employer in the community. They don't want it closed. Obviously, the unions don't want it closed because that's going to put 6,000 people out of work. The company just wants to pack its bags and leave immediately. That's its position. But they're under contract with the government, and the unions are raising hell, and they've got rights in this thing of just like, you're going to have to do massive payouts for this. What are we going to do here? They are at loggerheads, and for days they are caught in a negotiation that you can imagine. If anyone, I'm imagining that some of you are union organisers, just judging from the thing, you understand how intense, rigorous, passionate these arguments can be. Even when you're arguing over a couple of cents an hour, anything, right? Like it starts getting, and the reason that it starts getting like that, first off, is you're going into the frame of I'm right. You are going into the frame of I'm going to, like clobber this guy and show him who's boss. Like it's obvious, like always that tension between management and unions is always going to be really vicious. It's always, well, not always, right? Sometimes it's not. This is a very good example of it not being like that. But they're there for 2 days. And they're at loggerheads, and they're sitting there constantly. This is all that you ever do when you think that you're right. All that you ever do is you sit there, you keep picking apart the other person's argument, no matter how tiny it is. You said and, that's not the optimal little syntax there. You suck, like anything, right? Like this contract is void, there was a comma there, anything you can get. So you're just poisoning the well further and further because everyone knows what they're doing, everyone's doing it to each other. And there's also the thought now, well, you're going to be petty, I'm going to be petty as well. It just keeps getting more and more poisonous. And on top of that, there's a lot at stake here. It's really important. This is 6,000 men's lives we're talking about, their livelihood. And it's also a company that is going to go bankrupt, which is another, God knows how many employees were involved in this. Probably we're talking tens of thousands minimum across the country. Big stakes. The way that they got out of it was, at some point, one of the government officials that was there said, I want you to write this down. This can save you. This is a salvation of a question. There will be times in your life where you are negotiating with your wife, when you are negotiating with work, anything like this, And the same thing will happen. You will come in with your point of view, they will come in with their point of view. The fact that you are constantly attacking with your point of view and they're constantly attacking with their point of view only entrenches you both further. At some point, one of the government officials came out and said, for us to agree what needs to be true. For us to agree what needs to be true. Now, this immediately takes everybody out of the frame of, I'm going to push my reality onto you. Takes it immediately out of that. Now, what are they doing? It's in a frame of agreement. It's in a frame of agreement. You are immediately just saying to people, all right, instead of us just constantly saying, like, what is the truth, let's just try and figure out what is objectively true here. Let's start with that. What's the point? Like, we're not even talking about what can we agree on, because what can we agree on, I think, is just like a petty cop-out here. We are just talking about what is objective reality here. Well, the objective reality is the company will go bankrupt. Okay, everyone could agree on that. They were just like, here's the numbers. What else can we agree on? Well, objectively, if this mine shuts down, those 6,000 people will be out of work. That's a fact. They could all agree on it. They kept looking at it like that. The win became not slamming the other person, making them retreat into their opinion further. The win became, I was the one that identified the reality. Now, obviously, at the end of all of this, because the company did make the wrong decision and didn't do it, like it did eventually shut down. The mine shut down. The unions, the government, the company all looked at it and said, yeah, this is undeniable. This is in bad circumstances. Here's the difference, though. That company always had the ability to move out. That ability would have been bankruptcy. And so that would have been terrible for the company. That also probably would have been terrible for the workers as well, because of this intense negotiation period, the company wouldn't come up with any kind of severance package or some sort of phasing out program or anything like that. And even if they did, they'd be dragging their feet the whole time because they're going bankrupt, and it just becomes a sinking ship and all the rats are scourging for themselves. And so it's just like, well, fuck these people. And so that is a bad outcome for them. And it's a bad outcome for the government as well, because they're not planning where the revenue stream is going to come from. Conversely, what started to happen was the government said, okay, well, we will come up with a program to retrain those that need to be retrained. The company said, okay, we can relocate some of these miners to some of our other mining projects that are profitable, that are underperforming, so we can move some of them there. And that turned out to be about 2,000 of them. 2,000 of them picked that. 1,000 of them picked the retraining thing. And for the 3,000 that remained, the unions negotiated out a very generous severance package. What was the end result? Well, the mining company went to being one of the most profitable years that it ever had after that, because they were able to relocate that labour there, and then they were able to get more, extract more out of that. The government actually ended up making more from those 1,000 workers than they did from the other 6,000 workers that they originally had, because they were able to target them into positions that they saw this has potential. We'll retrain them in that, and the unions got a huge victory, a huge severance package for the remaining 3, which gave them the position, presumably, to go out and find another job somewhere else, right? So that was the outcome for it. Everybody won from it. Everybody won from it. And the reason that they did is because they were looking for what was true. Most of your life, because of your brain, you are always looking for what makes me feel right. The other reason that you are going into that frame of, let's just look at what agrees with me and what doesn't agree with me. It immediately makes things more objective, doesn't it? It immediately makes things more objective. As opposed to what you normally do when you are reading an argument that is against you, you sit there, you don't even take it in most of the time. We just know this, that as soon as, isn't this incredible? This freaks me out about the human brain. You see, and I know from the Biden example, you see something that doesn't agree with you, and you don't even notice it. You can't even remember, you could read it and you can't even remember the argument. That's normally what happens. Immediately when you are in that frame of, let's see which points agree with me and which points don't, you're actively at least seeking out those. Again, what we were talking about, you are also imagining a reality where you are not. making your decision. That's the other big victory from this. And the final big victory from it is you are subtly training yourself to go through life literally looking at it more objectively. Now, what is one of Tony Robbins' most famous quotes? You've got to see the problem for what it is, not worse than it is. The human mind has the propensity to always catastrophize, or, on the other hand, just it's going to be incredible, like everything, always way better than it's going to actually be. Very few people are able to look at reality. Very few people are able to look at reality. And obviously, if you are able to look at reality, are you going to make better decisions?
Yes. Yes.
So you are training yourself to look at reality more objectively for you, for your benefit. Sitting there and thinking, I am right, all the time is of massive detriment to you, and you will have enough of that in your life anyway. You will have enough of that in your life where you will just think, what supports my argument? Actively start to train yourself to look at it as what agrees with me, what doesn't. When you're talking to somebody else, that's your internal little game. When you're talking to someone else, it's always, what can we agree on is true? What can we agree on is true? Before you even get into the argument, what can we agree on is true? It even just puts it in a collaborative frame. This is the other thing that I need to point out here. There's two ways that you can generally go through life. What are they? Competitive and collaborative. Competitive and collaborative. Those are the two frames. Most of the time, when you meet someone and you think, what a legend, the reason that you think that purely is because they're somebody that is going through life collaboratively. When you say something to them, it's something for them to play around with. It's something for them to have fun with. It's something for them to add to. This is usually why musicians are very good conversationalists. Musicians usually are very good at maintaining people's attention. They're very good at making people like them, which is an especially important skill when you're a musician because you're usually bum. Aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you are able to back and forth. You know when to chip in. Because that's mostly what good improvisational music is. Let the other person play. It's time for me to chip in. Now I've got to pull away. Now I have to sit back. This guy's on room. That's why musicians usually are far better conversationalists than even people that have studied conversation. Because they understand that it's more about setting the atmosphere. So it's the collaborative way of looking at life. And the collaborative way of looking at life, I can guarantee you gets you a hell of a lot more of what you want out of life than looking at it as competitive. Competitive, you can win sometimes. But immediately, the frame is always win-lose. What's Stephen Covey's main point from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? In fact, how many people have read that? That's homework for a lot of you then. That's one of the classics of self-help. I'm rereading it. In fact, just come back to a seminar, I'll do it again. I will just go through the 7 points because look at that. Why not? Because you do it. Here's money. Just do it for me. Look, I will because it's an incredible book, but what is one of his main rules? Think win-win. Think win-win. When you are in a collaborative mind frame, you are seeking wins for the other person. You are seeking wins for them. You're rooting for them. As such, because of the law of reciprocation, what are they doing? They're rooting for you. That is what happened in that negotiation. When they started looking at what's true, that was something they could all collaborate with. That was a collaborative project. Let's figure out what is true. Immediately it started going away from poisoning each other to, how do we get a good outcome for everyone here? So those are the 2 points. Let's just go through it one more time because I do think that these are really, really key crucial points. Number 1, when we are going through our own life, what do we want to be looking at the frame through? What frame do we want to be looking through when we're doing our research, when we're gathering information? What frame? Does this support my argument or does it not? Very simple frame. Very important. The importance of it is not to be perfect with any of this. In fact, I want you to get this out of your head. Perfect decisions don't exist. Good decisions exist. You practicing this, especially at the beginning, is not going to reap huge rewards. It's the same principle in self-help over and over again. It is a snowball effect. You start implementing this into your life. You start thinking what agrees with my point, what doesn't agree with my point. It becomes more natural for you to start doing this. Automatically, you start moving towards it. It's the same thing as all of these people that identify themselves as being decisive people. At some point in their life, they decided to be a decisive person. As a result of deciding to be a decisive person, they are making more decisions, they will be more successful. This is something that you, if you are an undecisive person, need to start shifting. That's goal number one. Goal number one is you need to start shifting your identity to being a decisive person. That's number one. I want everybody to write this down. You need to become, in your own mind, a decisive person. You need to start flexing that muscle. You need to identify when you are being undecisive. You need to start eliminating that. 50-50 chance of being right or wrong on that. How do we increase it to 70%? 4 options. You're going to be right 70% of the time if you give yourself 4 options. So, you are going to be actively seeking out in your life opportunities for you when you are catching yourself in any decision process. Notice that your immediate thing is yes or no. Why are you doing that? Because you're lazy. Because you're lazy. You don't want to think of 2 other options. Even two options? What the fuck? I have to think about this for 20 seconds. Right? That's happening. And that's what stops most people from increasing their chances of having a correct answer 70% of the time. Literally just thinking of 2 more options. No more. 2 more. That's it. Any more than that and you start getting confused. It freaks out your little chimp brain. You want 2. 2 options. You want to think that extra 20 seconds and you'll increase your chances of making the correct decision by 20% minimum. A third or half of your decisions in life can be wrong. That's a good way of thinking about it. A third or half. Your choice. So that's the second point that we want to get through, right? First off, you want to decide that you're a decisive person. The second point is, I want you to start thinking in that option. When you are making decisions, start thinking of it in 4. Start thinking of it in 4. It is not that much more energy. Trust me, it's not that much more energy. Really easy. Me thinking about that renovation point, I was thinking about that on the spot. Like it just started hitting me in my head that I was like, fuck, that gives me the shit. So I started talking about it, and then just using that frame, I thought, here's 2 options straight off. But I have never prepped that before. You saw me in real time coming up with 2 extra decisions. It took not long, did it? It was just there. You can do this. You just need to get into the mind frame of it again, because when we do, we make a decision and we start moving towards our outcome 6-1. Those are good odds, just from these basic little frames. 6-1. Then, the final one is that it's not even the final one, I've got another one after this, but the other one is, I just want everybody to be writing down what we have. The other one that we have is counteracting our cognitive bias. We're going to be counteracting our cognitive bias. One more time. How do we do that? When we're thinking about ourselves, what are we doing?
Looking at what supports us.
Looking for what supports us and what's against us. More important. What's
Reality.
What's reality? Well, yes, absolutely. We are looking for reality. That is the desired goal of these 2 little activities. When we are talking to other people, we are looking for a collaborative frame. The easiest way to get to a collaborative frame is, what can we agree is true? That's first. When you're talking to other people, when you're in any contentious negotiation ever, what can we agree is true? When we are negotiating with ourselves, it is what supports us, what doesn't support us. What supports our point, rather. What supports our point is better because it's not us. We're not attacking ourselves, we're attacking an idea in our heads. We are putting the idea through the first frame of reality test, which most people don't do ever. They just look for reasons to make themselves right. That's that one. Now, there is like a couple of additional points that I really do like, so I will just quickly check these out. One sec. Here we go. Okay. Now, I've really got one more section that I'd like to talk about, which is, in fact, this is a talk that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be making this sort of my next stand-up show, which is loosely based around it. It'll be talking about the mentality of welfare class, working class, middle class, elite. And I think that we've basically broken it down to welfare class, there is a dependency mindset there. Working class is just work is always the answer. They do not work smarter, they work harder. That is the mentality of the working class. Their pride comes from their job. Their entire identity is based on that. That's why this is the way that Labor parties across the world have always worked, is because it's something that is just so fundamentally rooted into people from the working class that their job is them. So there is an identity there, and so you can move the country to a better place because it's so powerful. Then there's the middle class, and the middle class's mentality is, I don't want to join the working class. It's fear. Fear is their motive. It's constant fear. The upper class, I think that their mentality is, and I think that Trump gave it away, making deals, isn't it? It's making deals. This is how these four classes look at the world. You look at Game of Thrones or anything like that, there's kind of just the options of war, diplomacy, you get this kingdom, I get this kingdom, I'm going to put my son on the throne, you'll get to wear sexy, that kind of stuff is happening. It's constantly deal making. When you're at the elite class, that's what you're basing your life off of. Does anyone know what the mentality would be for somebody who is class mogul? The widely appropriate, the widely respected and regarded self-made man.
Collaborative.
Well, collaborative is definitely an element of it.
I choose my reality.
Yeah, that's it. There's a definite feeling in the self-made man of just like, look, regardless of their circumstances, they're getting out of it.
Adaptability.
Doesn't matter where they are. It's an adaptability, but they're decisive. Self-made men are far more decisive. They're far more decisive than the average person. Far more decisive. They've got somewhere to go. They want out. Something that's really interesting as well about self-made men. You know the widely touted, both majors are controlled by billionaires or whatever, and then you look at the minor parties and it's just like, they're controlled by one billionaire, you know? It's widely a myth. It's widely a myth that the Labor Party is controlled by billionaires. There's a couple of them that do frequently donate to them. Both self-made men. Both self-made. Isn't that interesting? Because they both came from shit. They know what it's like to struggle. From the poorest of the poor. One of them used to go to school without shoes because their parents needed to make the decision of do we put fuel in the car or do we give him shoes. That's the level of poverty that we came from. Constantly skipping meals, literally hungry. And they became billionaires. And as a result of that, they have that social conscience. Now, what can you imagine for billionaires that donate to independents, Greens, Liberals?
Don't want to join the middle class.
Well, they were never part of the middle class. They were never part of it. They were always what? Well, I'll tell you this, actually. I'll tell you this. Yes, actually, that's true. That's true.
How?
It's Greens, billionaires, always middle class. Always from a middle class background. They came out with something like coming up with a gambling app, or they came up with some sort of gambling system or something like that. They were able to move their way out of that. It was kind of financing the way that they moved out of it, so they have that kind of outlook on the world. Liberals and independents, what are their billionaire donors from?
How do I win?
Mining.
How do I think of it?
Mining, but
Inheritance.
what was their parent?
Really?
Inheritance. It's inheritance. It's inheritance. They never worked for anything. They never worked for anything. And so there is that permanent entitlement. You know what I was pointing out when there was that Gina Reinhardt video? I was just amazed because I've never really heard it because she used to be so coy. But like everyone else on planet Earth, Twitter's melted her brain. And so now she's decided, like, I'm going to be like Elon Musk, because she's just reading Elon Musk tweets all the time, and she is a baby in her own head. And she's just like, hey, I'm pretending to be Elon now. That's the saddest thing about all of this. You have a 70-year-old woman doing an impression of the most autistic, cringy man on earth. Isn't it weird? That's the power of you couldn't show something that is a better example of how bad social media is for your brain. That you have both Elon Musk and Gina Reinhardt, who could have just coasted through their entire lives being in Forbes 500 magazines and being these shadowy figures that are just in your head as these elusive billionaires that must have these grand plans. And then you see them in real life, and then it's just high on ketamine, be like, I am become me. Yeah, pretty much. And you go, what? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're a crackhead, dude. Like, that's the reality. It's real emperor has no closed moment. Anyway, Gina Reinhardt was exactly the same. And you heard her speak, and what does she sound like? She sounded like a 5-year-old from Victorian England getting trained how to speak eloquently. That's how she speaks. It's a 70-year-old woman. Nothing has been learned in her entire life. She has a child's outlook on life. It's so entitled. It's that type of thing where, like, you know, you speak to a toddler and they're just like, I want that toy. And you're just like, but this toy is more expensive, it's better. I want that one, I want it. She has that outcome, right? Like, again, I'm just going to go through classic points, but, you know, Future Made in Australia, for instance, if you had half a brain, like Andrew Tweedy does, for instance, but if you had half a brain and you were a mining magnate, you would look at that and think, holy shit, not only can I dig shit out of the ground, I can process that here, and I would have the inroad to this because I have the capital to help in building this. And this is it's one of those win-win situations that we were talking about before with the union and the mining industry, and it's fucking mining. It's exactly the same thing. You could get richer. You could move yourself from just being these sort of like, you know, backward sheep station barons on the arse end of the planet, being these sort of Saudi sheikh billionaires that own things that are important, not just rocks. You own cars, you own computers. You would be building this shit. You could do this. But she has the mind of a 5-year-old. No, I want my mind. That's it. You know, she is thinking in this way. I'm telling you, there is a level of maturity that comes with those people, because when you are moving out of the working class, you have to obviously eat a lot of shit to get to the top. You're going to be a billionaire from there. How many fucking decisions do you have to make? How many humiliations? How many embarrassments? You still have humiliations to this day because your class always leads with you. They're still kind of like, even though you meet them and they're worth billions of dollars and they own yachts and shit, and they came in a Ferrari, they've got that real like, here you go, you know, like they've got that to them. It's just like, what the fuck? Use a handkerchief, like, you know, like they still have the mentality stays with you, and it's still like you can never escape it. And when you are hanging around all of these billionaires that have this tough, like, I grew up with polo life, you are never going to fit in there. You are always going to feel like a sore thumb. You are always going to feel outside. Your life is going to be filled with rejection. You have to be good at getting rejection. More importantly, you have to be good at seeking out rejection. Seeking out rejection needs to become your philosophy. That's really what tied into being decisive. Anyway, this is all linked to this one point, which is being an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, like what we were talking about before. There is obviously the put it all on red, oh, it did turn out red, I'm a billionaire now, yeah. That does happen. But it's pure cope, usually from the middle class, of the idea that they were lucky to get their money. Don't you think? This is the big victory that you get. Doesn't matter how successful you ever get in your life. As soon as you do become successful, what does everyone say about your success? Luck. You were lucky. You were lucky. Why? Because they don't want to make the same mistakes you did to get there. They want to stay in their bubble, but they are jealous of the fact that you made it out, and so they need rationalizations in their head. The easiest one for that is, you became lucky. And this is why it angers me to no end when I see that on the internet all the time, because obviously people that are on the internet, they are looking for excuses to just sit on the fucking internet and complain. Aren't they? That's what they're looking for. And so they always move into that mentality. That's usually why you have such a negative response to self-help as well, because it's just like the idea to a NEET that you cannot be in need is so offensive. They want to stay there. They don't want to stay there. They don't know how to get out of it. They don't know how to get out of it. So the mentality that they always put into themselves is, you know, rich people are rich because they inherited their wealth. I've just given you some examples of that being absolutely true. It is also true, however, that there are a lot of people that did move out of their class. Or if they were like Rupert Murdoch, for instance, who was somebody who was, okay, he inherited a newspaper in fucking Adelaide. In Adelaide. This was his empire. The cunt owned fucking The Simpsons. You know, at the end, it was a global empire. I mean, truly global. Like, we always just think about the UK and the US. This guy used to own TV stations in Pakistan, in India, in Singapore, the world. The world. He was controlling the world. He started with a newspaper in Adelaide. At some point, you've got to give the cunt credit. You know, like, don't you think? Like, it's just the thing. You want to get out of the mentality immediately that it was just like, people are there because of luck. Sometimes they're there because of luck. A lot of the time they were there because they made more decisions than you. That's more true. They made more decisions from you. They made more mistakes than you did. And true entrepreneurs, so there's that one stereotype that we have of an entrepreneur who's just lucky that they got there. The reality is, most of the time they are looking for two things. One, they are looking for no downside. They have trained themselves to, when they make decisions, look at, is there a way for me to not lose at all? Now, obviously, that doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Imagine if you get 10 of those shots in your life. No downside, none. They are looking, actively looking for that outcome. How can I possibly not lose? Is there an outcome where I win? There's two ways. I either win a lot or I win a little bit.
Little wins.
Little wins. At the very least, a little win. You could have a big win. This is what you get over and over with the greatest investors in the world, those real unicorns that actually beat the market. There's very few of them, but some of them do, and it is because they are looking at investments through that frame, and the vast majority of people are looking through the frame of Google. Oh, you know, like that. You know? That's their frame. The second thing that they do, and this is something that I need you to write down, entrepreneurs test, academics theorize. Entrepreneurs test, academics theorize. That's why they're there. Even when I was in university and I was taking the obligatory business classes that we needed to take, it always struck me when they were talking about all this business theory and how to make a business plan. It was like, well, you want like $100 grand a year? You know the theory. Why haven't you made a business? You've got a university tenureship where you've got this safe, easy paycheck. You have all this knowledge of how the greats made it. You're teaching us how the greats made it. Have you done it? It goes back to the main point at the beginning. Potentiality is worthless. Decisions have value. Potentiality is worthless. Decisions have value. All these university lecturers, some of them aren't, for instance, like Mark Morris, for instance, is a university lecturer and he's a billionaire, right? But he obviously his advice is more valuable. He's actually done something, but at the end of the day, you can only get so much advice in life. If you do something in the real world, you have to test if the reality is the reality. There is a very good example of this guy that was a billionaire, and the way that he became a billionaire, how's this, is that he would go to all of these businesses that had these grand 10-year projects that were usually given to him by a consultant, that they were usually given to him rigorous market research. We're going to build this product and we expect that it's going to be really popular in Japan and in South Korea, and they'd come up with that, right? And then he would say, give me 6 months, I'll make you something that'll make more money. Now again, right 50% of the time, this guy was right 80, 90% of the time. And the way that he did it is, he basically found out what the company was building. He made it as what we were talking about before, right? Instead of going to business class, he went to economy X. He made a shit version of the product. You need a shit, small version of the product. And then you put it on the market. And then he would very often turn, and this is another reason why they didn't like him for a very long time. Now he's just seen as like a god amongst these people. He actually is the consultant that is the consultant godfather, right? Obviously, because CEOs, because of their confirmation bias, he'd come in, and then he'd come back 6 months later and say, what's your advice? And he'd say, don't do it. That's my million, see ya. Don't do it. Was that million worth it? Absolutely. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar decisions sometimes. You're charging $1 million for 6 months of work to come back and he'd say, that's good, that's not good. Or you can tweak it and do this. And the reason for that is testing. Every good chef, what? Taste the food. An entrepreneur mentality is constantly testing. The entrepreneur mentality is constantly testing. That's what they're doing at every single step of the way, because they are putting a little probe into reality. Hits reality. It bounces back. This is a habit that I've got to get back into. But I think that one of the main things that was a real goal of the channel for a long time was like, fuck me, like what? We literally have to get into a fight with lib gangsters to get views. Like, surely there's another way to do this. Surely there's an easier way. We've always had that idea that, you know, radio segments, there's some radio segments that are absolute classics. I don't know, if any of you guys are millennials, I think a big Melbourne thing for a long time was the crank call, I got you thing. That was huge for a very long time. It was a staple of the segment. In fact, every time they didn't do it for a week, the ratings would dip by like a third. Because they just were like, where's I got you? Fuck this, and they change the channel. Sometimes there's just that segment that happens. I cannot tell you how many times people come up to me after a show and say, oh, I've got to confess your sins for you, mate. You should do a confess your sins on pool lifeguards or whatever. This is a very dependable view count for us. Like, obviously, sometimes those do badly at the beginning. Give them 2 years, minimum they'll be hitting 500,000. They keep growing. We need a couple more of these segments. But this all came from me one day, and it was just coincidentally while I was reading this, I was just thinking, well, what's something that everybody can relate to? Obviously, it's work. We've all had shitty jobs. And obviously funny things have happened to us jobs, particularly the shitter the better, and so they usually, it's always why the fast food ones are great, right? Anyway, I was thinking, surely there's some great stories out there. Purely because I was reading this just really, really cements the point, honestly. Purely because I was reading this, it was one of 6 ideas that I had. I put it into YouTube comments, I put it into Facebook, I was just like, what do you think about this? Some of them that would have ever even hit your algorithm, ever. None of them, these questions. Obviously, that's not popular. And then I said, tell me some stories about working in KFC. Just thousands of comments. Oh, yeah, there's one. That's a winner. That's a winner. And what did it cost me? $0. 0. This is the level of market research you have available to yourself now. The amount of research, I've thought about how lucky we do to live in this country. I could not imagine being Channel 10 and getting this level of market research on you guys back then. I could not imagine. It costs nothing now. I just click on analytics and it'll have unbelievable, I know where you cunts live. I know the suburbs you come from. And like, this is the incredible, I didn't actually look, but I could. That's what I'm saying, I could. And it cost me $0 to market research that. 6 ideas. One of them turned out to be a winner. It is a staple of the channel. It's an easy win every single week. It's also something non-controversial. And so it's something that you can always just prone to advertisers and say, look at this, without actually harming the integrity of the rest of the show. Because like, imagine if you just start putting on ads to political things immediately. Like even that thing that we gave the shits about, I can't remember what it was, but like, find out which newspaper is biased and which newspaper isn't biased, which is usually what happens when you do politics. That kind of shit. Or like, You can bet on your favorite politician and your chances in the midterms as those kind of ads. Don't want to get into that shit. Need something else. This is a dependable, staple thing. In fact, honestly, it's something that I could retire tomorrow. I could probably spend 2 hours of my day just on this. Tell me your cop stories. For whatever reason, cops always works. I reckon I could do it for the rest of my life. Probably the numbers would just keep increasing and be like, oh, did you arrest you? I could release like 5 of those a week, easily. Get someone in the Philippines to do it for even less fucking so I could scream every penny out of the average. I could do it. I could do it. And it all came from 0 market research. 0. Imagine if I did those 6 ideas as videos. At this point, because there's just so many filters into the quality that goes into Friendly Geordies, right? Like you have a researcher that again is looking for, because my identity comes out of this, being wrong. So he's filtering out all of the things of being wrong. I pay someone to do that. I pay someone to edit. I pay the director who also manages the channel in terms of like, you're working on this, you're working on that, we've got that video going. Every single video that we put up, let me just do a quick calculation of this. It would not be unreasonable to think that every single video costs us around $5,000. Probably about $5,000 in labour costs. Let's just be conservative for a second and say that it's $3,000. It's not. I can promise you it's not. It'd be $5,000 minimum. $3,000. 6. Jesus Christ. I got a better outcome than I could have for $24,000 from testing. $0 versus 24,000 for 6 videos that would have stunk up the algorithm and made YouTube think like, oh, he's losing it, he's fallen off, and then it makes it self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, I got it for $0. This is what I'm talking about. You are going to look in your own world for ways that you can freely test your ideas. You are always going to be thinking that the thoughts in your head, a big thing of self-help, the thoughts in your head are just thoughts. The thoughts in your head are just thoughts. What matters is actions, because actions have consequences. Actions have consequences. So, smart people, entrepreneurs, are always looking for small actions. Test small consequences. And then they get a feeling that there's something here. There's some steam this way. We've got to keep doing small little tests. Yep, there's the market. That's the godfather of consulting. That is his method. And remember, if we go back to that original stat, you do these things that we were just talking about. Entrepreneurs test, academics theorize. You can go to the academic for the theory, which again, I would include consultants in this, and you will be successful 1 time for every 6 times you will be successful by going the entrepreneur route and testing. You'll be 6 times more successful if you get into the habit of small tests. You'll be far more successful if you get into the habit of, what are we talking about with internal and external strategy from now on? Can we go through that one more time? Internally, when you are looking to see if an argument supports you, what are you doing? What are the 2 things that you're looking for? What's for us and what's against us? So everybody make sure that you write that down. I want you to write down entrepreneurs test, academics theorize. Entrepreneurs test, academics theorize. I want you to write down internal decision equals what supports my argument, what supports my point, what doesn't support my point. You want to be looking at it through that frame. Then I want you to be looking at it through the frame of, when we're talking about a collaborative effort, when we're talking about with other people, what are we looking for? You're looking for win-wins, but you're also looking for what can we agree is truth. Write it down now. Internally, what agrees with my point, what doesn't agree with my point. Externally, we want to be looking for what can we agree on is truth. Sorry, less dumb way of saying it is what can we agree on is true. What can we agree on is true?
What if those don't align?
They won't. They absolutely won't. Some things will. Always. This is what I'm talking about. See, That's a very good example of what we were talking about before. That is a natural response of the human brain. What happens if you don't agree on anything? What happens if you agree on everything? That's how the brain works. I do it all the time. We all do it constantly. We are constantly in this binary thought. What happens? This guy said at the beginning. What happens if you make the decision and it's wrong? Well, the short answer to that is you make another decision. It's about getting into the habit of making decisions. Again, you can be one of the most successful firms on earth purely by being decisive. We're not even talking about these extra steps. You can be one of the most successful on earth by making more decisions than the average person. Because eventually you'll hit a road and you'll have to make other decisions. And you'll get desperate enough and you'll feel bad and you'll move out. But we can avoid a lot of those bad feelings. By, how do we counter that? How do we counter what happens if you make a bad decision? What happens if you don't agree on everything? What is that an example of? No, the exact opposite. Huh? Indecisive, no. Binary thinking. It's binary thinking. I want you to write that down now. Your brain naturally wants option A, option B. You are going to give it, you are going to force it to have option A, option B, option C, option D. Because in her example, if you're in a group situation and you can't agree on anything, let's just theoretically say that that is one of the outcomes. It's possible. It's possible. You could agree on literally nothing. More likely, you will agree on most things. You will agree on some things. You will agree on one thing. Sorry, did you have a question? No. Okay, good.
Not yet.
Not yet. Great, that's cool. Because those are the primary things that I want you to remember. 4 points, 4 decisions. 4 decisions. Internally, what can I agree? What agrees with me? What doesn't agree with me? Externally, what can we agree on is true? Entrepreneurs test. Academics theorize. Those are the main takeaway points that I want from this. I also, let me just double check if I've got everything here. The massive one, I think, is just this. This is the end one that I'll just always put out. This is just a very good strategy for you to get into, which is, because again, a lot of our decision-making process, we want to be focusing as much as we can on the decisions that we have in front of us. We want to be focusing on the most important decisions. And this is always a good habit to get into, which of course is the classic self-help question. Will I care about this in 10 years? Will I care about this in 10 years? Immediately gets rid of a lot of the stress in your decisions. A lot of them. That's the final point. Now, are there any questions before we get out of here? Yes.
What books did you read to get these ideas? I kind of recognize some of them.
What books did I read?
Yeah.
I can't remember. No, it's true. It's honestly true. Like I wrote this. Like I should actually start writing the books that I put at the top of them. But like I did do this seminar originally like a year ago or something like that, and I've just started refining it over the time. So I can't remember the books. Next question. Yeah, you.
We're looking for ideas for you to be wrong, right? So naturally, sometimes you might find ideas that are, like, of course, goes against what you believe. Some of them might be true, some of them might be false. How can you distinguish between both?
Well, use the frame that we were using before.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, you're saying, just as an example, you're going to come against ideas that are going to contradict your thoughts, and as a result of that, as he's correctly identified, what's the natural propensity to that? Not even identify those thoughts, to just immediately ignore them. In fact, to just sit there and think, oh no, actually here's a bunch of evidence that proves me right. You have to understand this, and I want this to be doubly emphasized. We did go through this, but I do want you to remember this. That's going to be a lot of your life. A lot of your life is you going to be sitting there saying, I'm right. You always want to be proven right. It just feels nice when someone says you're right. In fact, this is something that you can always do to someone else. You can always say to them, if you want influence in their life, this is how you get influence. People think that you'd be a better arguer. Bullshit. No one wants to be proven wrong ever. You sit there and you go, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's sick. Wow. Oh, yeah, you're thinking of crime. Yeah, crime's cool. Like, yeah. That's what you do. Because they'll hang around you, and what's the best way to influence someone? Just be around them for a long time. So, obviously, people want to, you will just naturally come across those. The frame that we're using in this, though, is going to eliminate at least some of those dead ends, and that's all we can do in life. But, I've got to say, pretty damn good outcome. This is a winning strategy. This is a strategy that is worth literally billions of dollars. When we're talking about the economic activity of these corporations that put it on, we're probably getting into the trillions. It's at very least hundreds of billions of dollars. This is that level of advice. That frame that we just went through. One more question. Yeah.
Yeah, coming back to testing, like, do you just have questions that you just post on social media and see what bites, or? Like,
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Absolutely.
so, what's an example of something I would test? Like, obviously you're not going to put online, oh, what am I going to have for breakfast this morning? But I'm trying.
Well, I don't know. What are you doing in life? It's a very broad question. What do you mean?
Like, give an example of something you would test.
Give me an example of something that I would test.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you a very good example of this. The last time that we used this was Epstein. Did that. That was it. We're just like, okay, no one's going to, because we just know from the cycles, right? No one is going to give a shit about elections until the Victorian election. It's just going to be death. Our Patreon numbers are going to go down. The aim is to constantly keep people just, aware. Actually, what we're doing, if you just want to know some inside information, this is something else that I will say as well. I'm not looking for views in these videos. The main aim of the channel now is to explain basically Labor's grand picture for Australia, like where it is moving this country and how. The big picture. The kind of stuff that made Australia the first world envy of the world that it was in the 80s. Like, what is the Albanese government doing to get us to that next stage, right? That's the main aim of the channel. But in the meantime, you've got to keep it profitable. And this is something obviously I'm just interested in anyway, because I like going down little conspiracy wormholes. Like everyone does, it's fun, right? And so, obviously, just ask someone and just being like, have you been keeping, it's this easy, have you been keeping up with this Epstein stuff? And I could do it as well. I could say something else as well, just like, I don't know. Hey, who's looked at the Tasmanian election results? Pretty crazy. And then it'd just be the same mentally ill, chronically online freaks that are not even worth engaging, because you basically make the video just so they can be like, fuck yeah, you fat. Okay, thanks. Right? It's not even worth talking to them. Who cares about them?
Dave's dinners.
Oh, that'd do very well in where I'm going next, Ballarat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, rural Australia loves fucking Dave's dinners, and this is fucked, because I've just realised, like, that's my divorce, Dad,
The all-you-can-eat Pizza Hut.
The all you do not have an all-you-can-eat pizza.
Ballarat does.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
Well, thank you for this information. Oh, that's great. Okay. What? It's beyond the highway?
It's on the highway.
It's on the highway. Is it a real one, or is it one of those bullshit ones where they kind of just like, yeah, we'll make you pizzas, but you have to eat the whole pizza? Come on, it has the little bullshit jelly pizzas, please. Oh, fuck all of you. This is incredible. This is just a bunch of 40-year-olds sitting there being like, when I was 6, there was no...
I saw it last on the road.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, oh my god.
You gotta test it for yourself.
Oh yeah. Rest assured, I will be very entrepreneurial in that. I'll tell you this. Okay, look, I've got to get out of here because these guys need to use this face. But I'm going to say this. Thank you so much, Melvin, for coming to this. I'm always really, really impressed with how well the response is from the self-help seminars. And I enjoy doing them so much because you can see that there is value that is getting absorbed into the audience and that you are going to carry on into your lives with at least some of those pointers and at least acting some of those pointers. And as a result of that, I am sorry, but if we are going to agree upon this one simple truth, which is that your life is going to be a direct result of the quality of your decisions.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're going to write it down, that your life is going to be a result of the quality of your decisions. I think that we've made some good progress here. I wish you well. If you want to come up and say hi and get a photo, you've got half an hour. Thank you for your time. Thank you.